The budget gives Singaporeans an insight into the ways which the government stewards and allocates resources to help Singapore and Singaporeans grow. It acts as a steer and a benchmark for Singaporeans to understand where we are going and how we intend to get there. Now, history has shown us that society tends to stratify as they develop. With development comes a difference in wants, needs, and aspirations. If left unaddressed, some of these differences may ultimately cause irreconcilable tensions. We see this happening all over the world, and how we negotiate these differences in Singapore is imperative to our collective progress. While we cannot completely fight it, we can try to stave off the undesirable outcomes that it can bring by ensuring that people, regardless of background, have a seat at the table to share in inclusive economic growth. Access to opportunities is key. While there is much in Budget 2022 to talk about, I will focus on two areas for my English speech: support for mental health and social integration, and a stake for our youth. From our frontliners to students, healthcare workers to teachers, seniors to caregivers, battling COVID-19 has taken its toll on Singaporeans. A survey reported by Today in October 2021 indicated that 68% of respondents in Singapore said they found 2021 to be the most stressful year they have experienced. More than half said they felt like they have lost control over their future. In 2020, Singapore reported 452 suicides, a 13% increase compared to 400 cases the year before. For seniors, we saw the highest number of suicides since 1991. Unlike physical health, the effects of poor mental health often go undiagnosed until too late. It starts to interfere in significant ways with one's life. Even if diagnosed, there is still a lack of social understanding on how a person who on the outside might seem okay is not able to function because of what is going on in their minds. It is easier to see the difficulty which someone faces in climbing a set of stairs, for example, if their leg is broken, but it is not as easy to understand that the same or even seemingly simpler tasks like getting out of bed also can present a challenge for someone with mental health challenges, much less keeping up with the pace of life. Is it no wonder that many hide their conditions away? On their own already, they may feel like they are a burden without society's reminders that they aren't where they want to be in life. Mental health challenges don't fit in a neat little box. The implications of being diagnosed or having a loved one who is diagnosed with a serious mental health condition spans financial, familial, and social considerations. As such, I am glad that the government in 2021 announced the formation of the Interagency Task Force, and I certainly look forward to hearing more about the next actionable steps and plans. Besides the government, it's really civil society and ground-up groups who have made great strides in promoting mental health awareness to reach different pockets of society. Awareness and education is but the first step towards destigmatization. From Campus Sci to Silver Ribbon Singapore, Over the Rainbow to Haya Network, and Samaritans of Singapore, youth, volunteers, suicide survivors, and even religious teachers are telling stories of the complex realities which those who face mental health challenges are going through, and I am deeply appreciative of their work. But this is not enough. Mr. Speaker, sir, we must take the next steps in becoming a more mental health-ready society. In particular, increasing access and affordability for people seeking mental health treatment, and working towards better protections and integration of life for people with mental health conditions. Currently, patients seeking mental health treatments can lean to a certain extent on Medisave and government grants. We know that other than stigma and shame, costs can often be a prohibitive reason why people do not seek help. Furthermore, mental health challenges can be recurring, and unfortunately, the road to recovery is not always linear. Options in the private sector for insurance coverage are few. A CNA article in September 2021 notes that there is rising interest in mental health insurance, but options remain inadequate. AIA, which launched the first insurance policy in Singapore to cover mental illness in January 2019, said the take-up rate for its Beyond Critical Care plan rose by more than 470% compared with the same period in 2020. Other than reviewing the withdrawal limits, will the government consider working with the private sector to incentivize more options for the provision of mental health insurance coverage? We must go beyond mental health awareness and towards integration and acceptance of people with mental health conditions, including skilling, literacy, and a more inclusive workforce. As an example, how do we ensure that people suffering from mental health conditions are given a fair shot and not turned away simply because of their conditions at a job interview? How do we also ensure that their caregivers may apply for discretional time off to take care of emergencies that may arise? Having to rely on informal processes and the grace of colleagues to secure the foregoing can be extremely stressful. Many people living with a mental health illness do want to work and can contribute to the workforce if they are adequately supported. For those who aren't able to work, would we be willing to explore how social assistance can be more nuanced to tide over different demographics of people during difficult times? These are complex issues with many considerations, but it is an important step for us to take sooner rather than later. Mr. Speaker, sir, over the last 2 years, our youth have faced unprecedented challenges from their experience of going to school, graduating, and entering the workforce during a pandemic. A Today Youth survey found 55% of 18 to 35-year-olds felt a dent in their financial prospects as a result of COVID-19. In my chats with youth on Zoom, via Instagram DM, and in person, many share their worries for the future. A commentary piece written by final year university student Natalie Tan was published in January 2022. She notes how the pandemic has shortchanged young people in financial, professional, and social ways. In Natalie's words, for graduating cohorts last year, the absence of in-person graduation ceremonies was like a nail in the coffin. It felt like we ran the race, won the prize, but were not there to collect the medal and hug family and batchmates. It's also tough to transit from attending classes on Zoom to searching for jobs in this floundering economy. With limited doors open, we went about in circles trying to figure out the next stage of our lives. Those of us who managed to find jobs had to contend with a lonely onboarding experience. Others weren't so lucky. Incentivizing employment is something the government has done. From employers to employees, many appreciate these efforts. In 2020, for example, the government set aside $100 million to fund the traineeship scheme as a stopgap measure to help new graduates increase employability amid a weak job market due to the pandemic. In Budget 2022, a total of $500 million for jobs and business support package will be set aside to support workers and businesses in segments of the economy that are facing slower recoveries. How will our youth be supported through this package? The lack of internships and in-person opportunities have made it difficult for some to even figure out what they want to do, and there is little that we can do to replace those years. I also know of youth who have turned to the gig economy as a means of generating an income. Some now consider this to be their full-time job, while others use their freelancing skills as a side hustle for the time being. As more turn to these roles as viable options, how can we work with companies to ensure better protections for these workers in the long run? Artists, musicians, dancers, actors, physical trainers, and many others have been unable to generate an income at different points of the pandemic. Some of them have been able to return to work in a limited capacity, and others not so much. While frequent testing is important, ART kits also come at a cost from already reduced incomes. One hard-hit group includes live musicians, such as bands and DJs, who previously held residencies at nightlife institutions. Since March 2020, many have not been able to continue their residencies, and hotspots have shuttered. Like many others who have seen the large bulk of their income slashed, many have tried to pivot, some have taken their skills online, and others have transitioned into other careers. But they remain hopeful that they will be able to earn a living once again by doing what they know and love best. I have two questions. Workplaces such as gyms have been able to operate with restrictions for some time now in an attempt to mitigate the risk of transmission. Are there ways in which we can limit the risk of transmission of performing on stage at an eatery that serves food and drinks so that live music can return? Will the government consider introducing balance measures that enable this? With a watchful eye on Omicron, as measures relax in stages, can the government give some clarity? What are some sort of circumstances and conditions we will need to see before members of this community will be able to return to work? Mr. Speaker, sir, in Malay, please. Baru-baru ini, MAS dan MTI telah melaporkan kenaikan inflasi teras Singapura sebanyak 2.4% berbanding setahun lalu. Kenaikan ini dipacu oleh kenaikan harga makanan, elektrik dan gas. Sebagai negara yang kecil, Singapura tidak dapat mengelakkan diri dari kejutan geopolitik dan kejadian yang berlaku di merata dunia. Walaupun ekonomi kita masih dalam proses pemulihan dari pandemik COVID-19, belanjawan tahun ini telah menunjukkan keprihatinan pemerintah untuk terus menyokong dan meningkatkan keupayaan rakyat Singapura. Namun, kos kehidupan yang semakin meningkat telah membawa lebih banyak cabaran bagi masyarakat kita, khususnya dalam segi akses dan peluang untuk membuat persiapan untuk masa depan yang tidak menentu. Pada tahun lepas, laporan dari Banci Penduduk telah menunjukkan bahawa jumlah keluarga Melayu yang tinggal di flat sewa 1 dan 2 bilik telah naik lebih seganda sejak dekad yang lalu. Dan ini disebabkan beberapa faktor seperti kenaikan jumlah rumah sewa yang disediakan khas buat keluarga yang memerlukannya. Setiap keluarga berdepan dengan keperluan dan masalah yang berlainan. Seringkali, ia memerlukan bantuan dari pelbagai pihak dan kita harus mencari strategi dan usaha yang holistik. Kita harus mendampingi kumpulan ini dengan lebih mendalam. Dengan itu, saya gembira usaha seperti Comlink dan Projek Dian telah disediakan di mana pemerintah, agensi-agensi dan relawan dapat menyelaraskan usaha untuk mendekati para penduduk yang tinggal di rumah sewa dan membantu mereka mencapai impian dan masa depan yang lebih cerah buat generasi yang akan datang. Agensi perkhidmatan sosial seperti South Central FSC telah menyediakan pendekatan yang inovatif dan holistik seperti Key Start Home Ownership di mana mereka menghulurkan bantuan termasuk gadai janji rumah dan kos pemindahan rumah. Pandemik ini juga telah mengingatkan kita bahawa dengan perubahan masa dan teknologi, boleh jadi pekerjaan yang kita ada sekarang tidak akan lagi relevan pada masa depan. Pada tahun lalu, satu kajian dari NTU menunjukkan hanya 58% wanita yang berkelulusan jurusan STEM menembusi kerjaya yang berkaitan dengan bidang itu, berbanding 70% lelaki yang memiliki kelayakan tersebut. Sudah tertentu, kita boleh mengajak lebih ramai masyarakat kita, khususnya kaum wanita, untuk menceburi bidang STEM dan industri berkembang. Saya berharap pemerintah dapat membuka lebih banyak aliran dan peluang supaya masyarakat kita dapat menembusi bidang-bidang ini. Jika kita ingin melakar hala tuju baru buat Singapura, biarlah kita tanamkan ikrar untuk maju bersama dan bangkit lebih kukuh supaya setiap generasi dapat meraih manfaat dari kemajuan negara. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a precarious balancing act, managing the needs, wants, ideals and aspirations of citizens. Singapore is no stranger to cater to these differences, while at the same time rallying our people towards common goals and purposes. Decades ago, the idea of a multiracial, multi-religious society was thought to be impossible given the times and our geographical context. In many ways, even today, it remains an anomaly. From increased healthcare spending to care for our seniors to heeding the call to tackle climate change, despite the increased complexities that threaten to pull us in different directions, I support the steps taken in Budget 2022 and believe we can and will find common ground to work together, despite our differences, towards progress for all. In the words of talented artists Lin Ying and Evan Low in last year's NDP song, and don't worry, I will not scare you by singing, come whatever on the road ahead, we did it before and we'll do it again. Thank you.